I believe we're at a place right now in our market where there's more salespeople than there is companies to be able to kind of take them on. The most important thing is you get the foundation of your marketing correct. So let's just say everything's working, right? Your avatar is perfect, the messaging is perfect, whatever. Next thing you should look at, most important thing you should look at is the numbers. We discovered, and this is going to be different for everyone, kind of touched on this last event, but for us, it was like 200 apps to 80 calls. And so most people just get this totally wrong, man. They'll do like, oh, it's one time, I got 1,000 apps, you know? On these 1,000 apps, I'm going to give 100 calls to each rep, right? And it just never turns out that way. So this is really dangerous because what happens is you don't give the right reps a chance. And this is really when we get to the sales team filter. We keep filtering the salespeople. We keep the hiring, rehiring, hiring, and firing. You just keep going around the circle to find the best rep. But you should make sure that the conditions are correct. And the conditions are basically, let's say you got 500 applications per month, right? Take into account, and the capacity of a rep, in my opinion, is 100 quality calls. Actually, less than that. Because if you take into account second calls, it's going to be around 80. It's unique 80 calls. Let's say 80 unique calls per rep. Okay, but how did we get to the 80 unique calls taken, right? Qualified bookings. Well, we discovered, let's say for example, okay, that we need, not 500 is not really realistic, but let's say we need, and you can measure it down a little bit if you want, but let's say 150 apps per rep, okay? 150 apps, then we take the show rate and the cancellation rate under consideration. So show rate, let's say, 60 of those don't show, and let's say, 10 of those are cancelled. That would be like heaven. That doesn't happen normally. It's more like 50% don't show and 50% you end up cancelling. But let's say you want to stick at 150 apps, well then you would have to adjust 150 apps for this, meaning you have to improve the show rate and improve the messaging, so there's less cancellations. Make sense? Right? Let's say that's our metric. This is where we want to stay. Because that's what we can produce for one rep. Then let's say the messaging is great, the cancellation is low. If it's not, it's going to be higher. The show rate is good because you have, dial-outs, great remarketing, whatever. This 150 apps for one rep is now going to give him about 80 calls. Okay? Now we can judge him. Does that make sense? Now we can judge him. But you have to make sure you have like an ability to track all of this. I have my own way of doing it. You guys can just make a spreadsheet. I know you guys have your own way of doing it. Now we can judge him by the 80 calls. And then what do? Then we just filter the salespeople. So let's say we have this number and then we triple that. So it would be 450 apps. Okay? 450 apps. And then now we can comfortably hire 3 salespeople. Personally, I would only do 2 for that. I want the best salespeople to take up all the opportunity, which is very tough because there's a lot of trust that goes on that, which is why we have to have a filter to keep hiring, rehiring, and making sure we stick at this number, and let's just stick with the 3 reps. Okay, we stick with the 3 reps, 80 calls each, and we expect 20 units out of each of them, bare minimum. Okay? Now the situation I have right now with my team is we overhired. Right? Wasn't my choice, right? But I knew from consulting days that the lean, mean, all-star team is really what you want. That's the dream, but it's very difficult to find good salespeople. I believe we're at a place right now in our market where there's more salespeople than there is companies to be able to kind of take them on. There's too many salespeople, and a lot of them, like 97% of them are not good. They're still in their beginner stages. That's okay, right? They need opportunities. You can create different squads for them. They don't all have to be closers. We can talk about demotion, promotion, all that kind of stuff. So 3 reps, 450 apps, 20 units each. Then we have a filter process to keep a mark of that. So every month you'll be able to see if someone does well or not. Okay? Someone doesn't do well, wipe them off. Okay? Back to 2 reps. You bring in another 2 reps for the one position that you have available. Okay? You're all aware of this. You just make them compete. So instead of giving them 80 calls, you would give them 40 each, like you're betting on a horse. Sounds terrible, right? But you're betting on a horse, 40 calls each. Whoever comes out at the end wins. And by the way, you'd be telling them all of this. Yeah. I literally tell my people you're in competition with each other. One of you is going to win, one of you isn't. I kind of see who works well under pressure that way. It's a little bit savage, but it's a savage business. And then at the end, you'd see who do well, then now we're back to 3 reps. And then one of these guys would fuck up again. you know, and then you just keep doing it until you find your leaders. That's how I do it. That's how we actually did it at consulting. We didn't realize we did that, but we did. It just was very short for us. We found very quickly, you know. And Nick was such a great hire because he was just like, he knew the whole business so well.